Hello, welcome to the Weber's Dojo and this week's question and answer session.
This week's question is a three-part question. The question's pretty involved, but it's something I've always wondered about. When we do step side kick, we cross our feet, example, left foot over right foot before delivering the kick. So the first question is, what's the reason for crossing one foot over the other? I've always assumed it is to gain distance, but this seems to go counter to the idea of not crossing your feet when sparring. Would you like to answer this?
Sure, probably easiest to demonstrate. So when crossing your legs, kosadachi, when you're doing side kicking, obviously it is to generate some kind of closing the distance feeling. Otherwise you would just throw the kick from this position. But if you need to close the distance, then you're going to cross over. Now, crossing in front of your leg, because if you're stepping across in this direction, I'm going to transfer my weight over to my support foot. The foot coming across the front, that's going to be, you want the toes in line as with Tekki Shodan, but you're going to be roughly having about 90% of your weight on your support foot. The crossing foot is going to have the 10%. Now, depending on your flexibility, you're either going to be toe to toe, or some people can actually get their the outside edge of their feet down. I don't have that flexibility, so I go to toe. I'm going to have both my knees bent. I'm going to have the inward tension initially, the contraction of the leg muscles to help create that stability. And then I'm also going to have my abdominal muscles contracted also to help with my posture. When I transfer the weight over, I'm going to switch the weight distribution of my feet, and then I can throw the kick. So you're not really going to be using this in a kumite scenario, sparring, because it's not going to be as stable of a stance. The second part of the question is, why do we cross left foot over right foot instead of left foot behind right foot? It seems like it would be easier to raise the knee if we cross the left foot behind the right foot. You want to take this one?
Oh, sure. I'm going to move my chair. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that there are many varieties of kosadachi, and some styles will step behind the support foot. The Shodan version we step in front of. So they call that Yushiro kosadachi, meaning that your weight is on your support foot, which is in the back. Okay, so when you're here. So when you're making this stance in the Shodan version, when you're stepping side to side this way, your plumb line, which is your body center, tends to rest on your back heel. So I think that in this version, then mechanically it's a better body alignment. I feel a little more balanced for myself than if I were to be backwards. So you want to make sure also, as Jeff already covered a little bit, when you're making a kick. So that was one thing that the first question brought up. So when your foot is behind, you have the ability to lift your knee, and since it's close to the your left foot, which is the support foot, the right foot being the kicking foot, you can now brush that against it and still maintain the body alignment to the side of your body. If your foot's in the front, I get a feeling that your leg can escape when you go to lift it up. It may not directly hit the body sideline. So for Shodan version, when you're stepping side to side, this is the version that we use consistently when you're stepping side to side.
The third part of this week's question is, in step 1 of Tekki Shodan, I see the same left foot over right foot move. Is the idea behind this related to my question above? You want to take this one too?
Oh, sure. Okay, the Tekki series, Tekki Shodan through Sandan, doesn't have forward and backward motion, Kosadachi is one of the ways of making distance. So the very first move in Tekki Shodan has you stepping over. The first move and moves similar to it in the Tekki series has more of a stealth step. It's like a stealth step where you don't make a big motion of it, and that's called a sashiashi. So that's something to keep in mind when you practice that first move. And then Karate Do Kyohan, in that book, Master Funakoshi considers it a preparatory position for an attack from the right. So that's how he explains that move and all of the moves where you're making that step across. Okay, since we're on the topic of Kosadachi, there are other versions that we practice of Kosadachi that usually happen. It's like a landing position from a jump, a kick, or a shift. And that position usually has you landing with the support foot first and then the supporting foot following up behind and putting that behind the support foot. So it's also a good preparation for a throw.
Thank you for your questions. We'll see you in the dojo soon, hopefully, and make sure next week get them in before 10 o'clock Friday night, and we'll be sure to answer them on Saturday.